The Future of AI in Sight Loss, presented by Professor Cathy Holloway, Maryam Bandukha, Tiguanshu Bhatnager of the Global Disability Innovation Hub at University College London, recorded on the 22nd of May 2025.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to this little rainbow group. We're going through a few years now, the 5 sight loss organisations around the country. What have we got today? Something a bit special today. We've got Professor Cathy Holloway and her team. Now, we've all heard about artificial intelligence. We all know new stuff coming in the future. But with Cathy and her team, this is what they do. They do the future. So they're not going to show you completed products. They're going to give a conversation on what is happening around the world and what could happen. And absolutely love to hear your questions, no matter how crazy they are, because they can set to work on it. Or somebody can anyway. So anyway, thank you, Cathy. Thanks for coming to our group. And yeah, over to you.
So, hi, I'm Cathy Holloway. I'm a co-founder and the academic director of the Global Disability Innovation Hub, which is based out of University College London's East Campus, so on the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. And I'm really delighted today, partly because I'm running late to the airport, and partly because they are both brilliant, to be joined by Maryam Bandukha and Tiguanshu Bhatnager. Maryam did her PhD, both did their PhD in me actually, but Maryam's been leading a lot of work on sight loss, visual impairment, or working with people who are blind or partially sighted. Her PhD started in navigation. She's also been supporting another professor at UCL on an AI-based navigation application for Transport for London, and has been leading on a program across 3 continents to understand the power of Android or mobile phones as an assistive technology for blind and partially sighted people. So in Kenya and India and in Brazil, and whilst that might seem really obvious in the UK, it's less obvious in some countries that maybe people should have access to mobile phones. And Tiggy has been done his PhD on a product called Cecilia, which I'm sure he'll mention, which is a material science-based a tactile interface for STEM education for low middle income countries as well, but has also been leading a lot of work on supporting ventures, entrepreneurs, startups globally, but especially running an accelerator in Africa. And then finally, myself, Maryam, and Tiggy have all been working with a guy called Brian Mwanda. He's actually Kenyan, but he's developed a new haptic interface for navigation that uses AI. And he will be launching that product in the UK later this year, and GDI Hub will be doing the first trial of it. So we'll be hopefully looking for people to work with us on that. I'll just mention that Tim asked where I'm off to. I'm off to Ghana. In Ghana, and then I'll be seeing Richard, who might join this call. Actually, I'll be meeting him there, and I'll see Tiggy in a few days, and then I will see Maryam in Kenya towards the end of the month. So in Ghana and in Kenya, we are doing a project not in sight loss, but in communication impairments. So we are collecting language data of non-English speakers who speak atypically, so who have slurred speech or difficult to understand speech, and then we are developing the algorithms and the applications to create mobile phone applications that will support communication. So the phones will understand people. Quite scarily, there are more devices that we can speak to in the world now than there are people. And obviously the device can aid communication. And the reason I mention that here is because that came from a real grassroots conversation, a conversation a bit like this, between speech and language therapists and technologists talking about what was really necessary and what was really needed. And then from that, we've developed a program that's now going to take 10 languages and create the applications for that. So, hopefully if you guys have ideas or you have thoughts or you have things that are not working, and get to work together, then we can figure out possibly a solution together. So everything that GDI Hub does is done in partnership. We're able to do some things and we have no idea about other things. So if you ask us a question that we don't know, that's great. We'll go and try and find an answer. Generally, all projects are a lot of fun because we tend to only work with people who are a lot of fun and bring something to the party, whatever they might bring. And everyone has their own thing to bring, so that's good. And with that, I'll hand over to Maryam, who'll be able to give a bit more detail.
And thank you, Cathy. And hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Maryam Bandukha. I'm a senior research fellow as of this year uh, at GDI Hub, and my research explores participatory design and impact of mobile and emerging technologies to support people with disabilities. I'm a brown South Asian woman, and today I'm wearing a black headscarf, black headphones, and black prescription glasses. So I've got a whole monochrome theme going on today. I have some notes. I have prepared some notes because I find it easier to talk about things when I have notes. So if I'm speaking too fast, which I tend to often, please tell me to slow down and I will. So I'm going to share a few reflections on how we're using AI, particularly large language models or LLMs, things like ChatGPT and Gemini, to support blind and partially sighted people. I'll touch on some of the research we're doing, as well as how AI is starting to show up in everyday accessibility tools like mobile phones. So let's start with Be My AI, which I'm sure many of you have heard of or aware of or have used probably. It uses ChatGPT to generate image descriptions for blind and partially sighted users. It's a simple but powerful example of how AI can help people make sense of the world visually. So the way Be My AI works is that it replaces Be My Eyes, the human volunteer that is or human assistant behind the phone, with an AI which is able to recognize the objects, recognize and identify the objects that are being shown through the camera. So what it does is that the user is able to, when the user shows the camera, turns the camera on or takes a picture, the AI recognizes the objects and it identifies and tells the user that you're looking at a monitor screen or a cereal box or something. So one of the ways in which one of the projects that we are currently working on that takes this a bit further is that we are exploring how location-based exploration can be enhanced by integrating multimodal interactions with large language models. So how this works is that we are able to use AI and combine that with location-based information. So, for example, if I'm at a local Tesco's, the AI would know, or the system would know, that I'm looking at a Tesco, but the Tesco is on Gower Street, for example. So this particular project, it builds on my PhD research, and it looks at how blind and partially sighted people can explore open spaces and the kinds of information they need to do so confidently. So the findings from my research, my PhD research, emphasize the need for technology-enabled empowerment and a sense of contribution to the social experience, because going to outdoor spaces, open spaces, is a social experience for many people. So both of these experiences, a sense of contribution and sense of empowerment, they require spatial awareness and real-time access to information. Now, access to information is a challenge that comes up again and again in research, and I have experienced that over the years that I've been talking to blind and partially sighted people. And one of the biggest ongoing challenges, is accessing information that is accurate, that is timely, and easy to act on, especially when it comes to building spatial awareness and supporting independent decision making in unfamiliar environments. Now, large language models like ChatGPT or Gemini are incredibly good at summarizing general or historical information, things that it already knows about. So, for example, telling what landmarks are in a certain area or explaining how a train system works. But they're not so great at dealing with real time changes in the environment, like a closed entrance, a diversion, or a temporary construction barrier. That kind of situational awareness is critical, and it's where we see the need to integrate large language models with other responsive technologies, like information about real-time train information. So one of the ways that this can be addressed is by integrating large language models with other forms of AI agents, which can autonomously trigger access to real-time information and deliver it to the user in an appropriate and accessible manner. So when we talk to ChatGPT, for example, we are able to ask questions like, hey, I'm at King's Cross Station. My train has been canceled. Can you tell me when is the next train? And it will tell us, where the next train is, because it has access to the real-time transportation data, and it can guide us to that station as well. So we are actually trying to do at least exactly that with one of our projects called the AI Mapper, which I'm working on with another professor called Professor Youngjun Cho at GDI Hub. So AI Mapper combines computer vision and LLMs with public transportation data to enable blind and partially sighted people to travel independently and safely. So like I mentioned, it uses the camera of the phone to help identify the objects around us and to navigate the individual to the desired destination on the station. But also it has access to transportation data as well. So it is able to make decisions in real time to support the user. We designed the AI Mapper through participatory workshops with a group of blind and partially sighted people, and through scenario-based discussions, we explored how AI-enabled access to real-time information can empower blind and partially sighted people in making informed travel decisions, particularly when things go wrong, like I said, as they often do with London transport. Beyond mobility, we are also seeing useful applications of AI in digital accessibility. So, for example, auto-generating alternative text, you might have experienced that on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. For example, image descriptions and transcripts as well, which some of these platforms are now able to do. They aren't always perfect, but they offer a starting point for content creators that can build on and improve these descriptions. Now, AI is also built into smartphone accessibility features that Cathy mentioned. One of the projects that we've been working on across 3 countries looks at enabling digital literacy and digital skills for blind and partially sighted people and people with other sensory disabilities as well. So how that works is that in Google Android ecosystem, the accessibility features, for example, in Android smartphones are now integrating with Gemini. For example, Google Lookout, an Android app for blind users, has started integrating Gemini's multimodal capabilities. Users can now take photos of complex scenes, for example, a messy room, a store shelf, or a street corner, and Gemini provides contextual and detailed descriptions of the scenes in the image. Unlike traditional object recognition that we are able to do at the moment with other apps, Gemini can also answer free-form questions about the image, like where's the cereal box, is the traffic light green, and things like that. In addition to accessibility features to support blind and partially sighted people, smartphones are now equipped with AI-based features and apps that can empower people with other disabilities, for example, upper limb difference and mobility limitations, deaf and hard of hearing people, and people with speech difference. For example, people with mobility limitations can use facial gestures and eye movements to operate their phones. Similarly, deaf and hard of hearing people can set up notifications for certain sounds, such as sound of clapping, a baby crying, or a fire alarm beeping. Using live captions and live transcriptions, deaf and hard of hearing people can also access real-time speech as text, including answering phone calls and communicating with the caller with text as well. All of these accessibility features have the potential to create significant positive change for people with disabilities, particularly in low-resource settings where standalone accessibility devices and technologies are either unavailable or unaffordable. One of the recent projects that Cathy mentioned, Mobilize AT, has examined the impact of smartphone accessibility features for blind and deaf people in low-resource settings. So we provided smartphone literacy training to over 700 people in 3 countries, Brazil, India, and Kenya. And the findings so far have shown a significant increase in agency and independence of the participants. Participants have also mentioned feeling of empowerment, of social inclusion, and being able to access employment and educational opportunities, all through the accessibility features of their phones in their pocket. And now I'll hand over back to the group. I'm not sure if Cathy is still around, about our upcoming product trial of Hope Tech Plus device, a smart navigation device that empowers independent mobility through the use of AI.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk to it. I wondered actually if Tiggy, if you wanted to mention anything about Hope Tech Plus, or would you like me to do it? I'm happy to do it.
No, please go ahead, Cathy. Go ahead.
Okay. So Hope Tech Plus is a okay. So when I first met Brian, he came to one of our accelerators, Innovate Now, which was funded by UK Development, the UK government's program, 80-20-30. And we ran this tech accelerator, and he had this idea for trying to improve navigation for visually impaired people. And it started with a smart cane, and it has developed. It developed into a wearable, whole vest, and now it's developed into a wearable that just sits on your neck. But one of the interesting things that he has created is a haptic language. So trying to use feedback, haptic feedback, so buzzing, feedback in different places along your sort of left shoulder of your neck and onto your right shoulder. and allows you to navigate more easily. The other thing is that he initially worked on having smart glasses, so using a lot of vision, and then realized that actually vision takes an awful lot of battery and an awful lot of power, a lot of processing, and it made the device way too bulky, so he stripped it right back. So he's worked with a lot of partially sighted people and fully blind people over about 6 years, has been supported by the Royal Academy of Engineering, and is now manufacturing. So is now going, I think there's 20 patents in the device. And it will be launched in the UK as a soft launch later this year in London at UCL, where we will do the first trial of whether or not this really supports people in their daily life. So that's coming up probably around, I think, July, August, I would say.
Did you have volunteers for that, Cathy? Or do you need any? I'm sure we can.
We will probably need some. At the moment, we're fully designing the test. So yes, but we will need some. And we're quite interested in following people who are actually buying it. So there are people who have pre-ordered it. So we want to follow people who've pre-ordered it, who are sort of early adopters and really do want this technology. But we'd also like to find people who maybe are more skeptical or less interested, because it would be interesting to see what happens if you're a person, who maybe isn't a lover of technology, whether or not it does, does it have any benefit, is it or not. So yes, we are, but we're finalizing the study, and Maryam will be the person that will be around. And it's one of the interesting cases of working, met this guy in Nairobi, and he's now established a business in both here in the UK and in Austria. So he's doing a great job. And with that, maybe I'll just quickly segue, because my taxi's just arrived at Heathrow. I was stuck in traffic, to Tiggy, because Tiggy's been working. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Tiggy's been working in India with a lot of startups who are also looking to come to the UK and to go global, and looking for our expertise in helping do that. So, Tiggy, can I hand it?
Well, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for taking the time out and for listening to us and all the wonderful things that we are trying to do. I would just like to start off by saying that none of this would be possible without the participation that we have from the various volunteers that we have been working with so far, and we'd love to work with all of you as well. But since we have already heard a little bit about these various technologies, I will try to take a step back first before talking about what things are coming out from some other parts of the world. But what actually is AI, and how can it really help us? So I would like to invite any one of you who has an idea about what is AI really, and if you'd like to share what you know about it.
The world round about us through the eyes of a computer, really. The technology, and I suppose the technology of an AI is only as good as what we've probably actually made it and what we can actually tell it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in some ways a very clever assistant, but it's an assistant dependent on what we inform it. It won't be able to generate things beyond what we tell it. So it can't really replace humans in terms of creativity, but it knows a lot of things from the millions of data points and data sources that are available to it across the internet and globally. So yeah, that's very cool. Anyone else? What do you think about AI?
Well, it can't necessarily come up with new ideas, but it can combine ideas, can't it? That may be in there somewhere, which it can seek out.
Yeah, and with time and combination, it just keeps on improving itself. With more new ideas, more combinations of existing things, sometimes innovative outputs can emerge through things like these generative AI tools. But it really depends on what it has seen before. So it may be able to combine various different things that it has seen before to create something new, depending upon how we would like to prompt it. So we have to suggest AI that, hey, combine these two elements and try something out over here and play around with these ideas and tell me what new can happen, which sometimes we won't be able to imagine ourselves quite nicely. But It's a the basic fundamental thing from a technological point of view is that it tries to understand and tells us something that it has seen before. So from that lens, basically, if you show something new, like a photo or a new piece of text or a new handwriting or a new face, it tries to understand these elements that it has, the new thing has, from all the memory of previous things. So if it sees, let's say, something completely new out of the picture, or if it has been programmed in such a way that things are classified in a predisposed order, then these patterns can be either deduced in certain ways that are somehow a reflection of our society actually works. So it can, for example, read a bus number, describe a crossing light, or identify the serial box, or use the patterns that it has seen before to guess whatever new is being informed. But if it has not seen that thing, maybe from a different country or different culture, or if there is no interpretation of what it is seeing, then it may not be able to guess or understand, or may provide a bad response or an incorrect answer, because AI typically is programmed to provide a response. It doesn't really know if it is right or wrong. And hence, in all AI tools, there is a chance of inaccurate responses, but the program is designed to give you some feedback. It can't just say that I don't know what this is, but these are things that I know. So that, I hope, explains a little bit about what AI is, and thank you all for your contribution as well. I don't know if you have already begun to use AI in real life, and would anyone like to jump in once again to share how does AI help in daily life?
Yeah, AI is playing a big part in my life at the moment. So I'll tell you some of the things that I use AI for. So, for example, I'm currently using a Meta glasses.
Oh, cool.
Now, the way Meta glasses works for me is if I'm standing at a train station, and of course, you're surrounded with all these billboards advertising what's there. All that was not available to me before. So rather than just standing there, I would now ask AI saying, can you see what is in front of me? And it'll say, oh, there's a billboard. Can you let me know what's on the billboard? Oh, it's a billboard advertising Adidas shoes. Or can you describe what kind of shoes they are and what's on the image? Is it a boy, a man, woman? And it goes into detail. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is I was in a restaurant the other day, and I picked up a menu, and it says, it looks like you are in a restaurant. You've got a menu in front of you. I said, can you read me? And then he started reading absolutely everything. I said, no. Can you please zoom into the desserts area? And then it started going and say, yeah, it looks like you got 5 different desserts there. And it read out me the desserts. I said, can you tell me how much they are? It says, I can't give you that specific information, but it looks like 8.5. But it's those kind of things which I would be depending on another sighted person to do that for me. So that's one aspect with the glasses. The other one is when I'm on my computer, I use ChatGPT, I use Copilot. Now, these little tools has made my life so much easier. For example, I am in between jobs at the moment looking for new jobs. So when I'm trying to write an application, AI kind of gives me that little hand. It collects all the data from my previous experiences, my CV, and it puts it together for me in such a nice format. And then it's up to me to how to customize it and make sure that what it's picked up is the right stuff. But it's just something that was not available, I would say, even 2 years ago. For example, another thing is like it went into my previous records and says, right, you have done 2,100 work-based assessments. Would you like me to analyze in which areas you've done this? I wouldn't have never thought of doing anything like that ever, to go through all my previous work and analyze this kind of data. So AI is really changing the way I'm working, the way I'm interacting, the way I'm moving around. So yeah, it's brilliant. It's
Amazing.
absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
No, Paresh, thank you so much for sharing those ways of working around. You seem to be like a real power user of AI and on the cutting edge. That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
How about some of the others on the call? Are you using AI, or was what Paresh mentioned really new and exciting? How do you think about it?
I mean, speaking, I'm Tim. I'm cited, by the way, Site Advice. It's not used as much as, I mean, Parish clearly is a super user, so well done, Parish. and obviously that's how we'd like a lot of people to use it. But it's not being picked up by as many people as one would think. The devices that are starting to work for people, without doubt, the Meta smart glasses, the Ray-Ban, that seems to be working really well for people. Also, it's on a good price point as well. And some of the other ones coming through, which I'm not too sure about yet, but looking very promising. Noah, which is a haptic vest. Glide, which is like looks like a Hoover and helps you guide around. These are the things, and the WeWalk. These are the things that appear to look promising. I'm not sure the take up is huge. Now, other people may know more about this than me, but the take up doesn't seem to be very high at the moment, not as high as one would think. And I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a very good question. Very, very good question. And this is something that we see across a lot of the other startups as well. That though the solution could be quite interesting and exciting, it really is being used in a very small and a limited bubble, potentially by people who sort of gave input in the design of those technologies are eventually users, and only a few people beyond those initial lead users are actually adopting it. And it's something that we are also trying to work on understanding, where are the awareness gaps, or are there any usability issues in these technologies, and what challenges do people face in adopting some of these tech. I don't know, would anyone like to share an experience where they faced any challenges in
Can I jump in again?
Sure, Farid.
It's fine. So I will give you a practical, real example that I've shared with somebody else recently. So a friend of mine spent almost £3,000 plus for a product which we all know in the market, which is
Yeah.
and now he realizes, they've stopped their business, and now he's stuck with this. While I have spent £250 on my Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and it's part of a mainstream product, which so the difference here is he's now stuck with a product which has come to a limited lifespan because the company's now stopped the product. But it's the price difference, and what is, if it's mainstream, then the developments are much more faster, it's more cost effective. Is the same issue when Seeing AI, the app that is world renowned now, came into use. While people had using really heavy scanners to do scanning and reading and getting the same kind of information, but it's the cost is the biggest effect. And of course, a lot of blind and partially sighted people in the world are not in employment, so cost is a big part of our lives, and we need to, cost comes first before we come to a solution, because not in every country that there is grants and allowances available. And especially if you're not in employment or in education and you're just at home, then that becomes a big question, saying, yeah, all this is fine, good, but I can't afford it.
Yeah.
So sorry, I just jumped in with my little.
No, it was really good.
Just a correction on there. Arkham is still in business and they're still making products for the visually impaired. They've been recently interviewed and they're still doing that. So they haven't gone out of the market.
I'll let him know then. He's very upset. So I'll take that on. Thank you.
Thank you, Roshan.
Another comment, if you can hear me, is that people use AI without knowing that they're using it. So they're using smart speakers, they're using GPS apps, they're using all sorts of things on their phone, but don't directly think they're using artificial intelligence, but they are.
That is a very good point, David. Absolutely. Artificial intelligence has been with us for decades now. In all of these Alexas, in smart thermometers, in these temperature control devices for our homes, all depends on the fundamentals of AI, which is called machine learning, which basically uh, helps these machines understand patterns by itself by giving it information about millions of patterns that have existed previously. So, patterns of our voice, for example, can be understood by Alexa and interpreted as language, as intent, and other things, which fundamentally uses AI and has been with us before the entire discussion on AI sort of emerged with the start of ChatGPT and tools as such that made workflows and education very, very interesting. So that impact really has trickled a lot of discussion, and we are now revisiting some of these technologies that have been with us for many, many years. Seeing AI, for instance, came around a decade ago, where AI was almost and is still some kind of a buzzword, but the fundamentals of what seeing AI does has been there for decades in scanners and in other technologies. I think what is also interesting to see that if more people talk about it, if more people do research about it, and if more funding goes there, the pace and the growth that happens in this field becomes so fast that it is unprecedented with any technological revolution that has happened before. It took so many years to develop automobiles. It is still taking us time to develop electric vehicles. Power and energy and electricity took almost centuries to be invented and to work functionally, but it took uh, ChatGPT took 3 days to reach 1 million users. The new version took hours to reach over 1 million users. So the way in which these technology are revolutionizing and impacting lives is just unprecedented to what it was before. And that's really good because it means that these technologies will improve quickly, much more quicker than anything that was happening before. So even if these tools are, let's say, inaccurate today, their inaccuracies will reduce exponentially in the days to come. And that's how the world is moving right now. But of course, your voices still matter. Uh, there are gaps in the adoption, as Tim reflected. And I would like to, just see if there's anyone who would like to share an anecdote where you tried some of these technologies, these apps or these devices, but they weren't good enough. They didn't really address a problem, or they created even more problems and frustrations while you're trying them. Has anyone had such an experience with it before?
No,
Hello, it's Anthony Hall from Site Airedale. Just one experience that I had was the problems with these applications hallucinating. I actually did a test. I do the YouTube channel, and I'm going to do a test on testing how accurate these document readers are. Comparing Seeing AI, ChatGPT, Be My Eyes, and that kind of stuff. And one of the tests I did was I scanned a page in a book, and one particular app, I don't know what book it was reading, but it certainly wasn't the book that I had it scanning. It just completely hallucinated. I think this is, in some ways, it would be better. You were saying that if the AI doesn't know, it will come up with a response. And actually, it would be better if the AI said, "I don't know," rather than coming up with a hallucination or something that's inaccurate. Because the thing is, if you're going to rely on this, to cross a road or find your way around somewhere, or read a product label to make sure it doesn't have nuts in because you're allergic to nuts, you can't afford for it to hallucinate. It's got to be either, sorry, I can't help you with this, or right.
Yeah, you touched upon a very important ethical question, Anthony, there that really goes down deep into the ways in which these AI tools are actually programmed. Now, these tools, when they are programmed in a way in which they are rewarded to respond. So, by training, these systems have a predisposition to respond, even if there's inaccuracies in the response, and only through our feedback and our inputs, they understand, okay, the response was inaccurate or was not up to the mark, and hence this needs to be corrected at this level. So it's a matter of time that these becomes more and more accurate. But to respond to your very important ethical question there, the two things. One, of course, these tools need to recognize that there might be an error or there might be an inaccuracy in the response and hence clarify it at first. So some tools uh, like Cloud really puts it forward as the first statement that, see, answering this question may not be something that is in my purview, but here is a response. So creating those sort of precautions for the end user is very important, and some tools are beginning to incorporate that. And second, there is an entire element of now making hardware or the surroundings more more perceptible to AI tools. So if there are elements that, for example, if you read an ingredients label, things are uh, written in bold at some places, especially those allergens, so that for people are able to acknowledge those allergens easily in that long list of comma separated ingredients. In the same way, there might be a time where the designs of these lists and other things are made so that AI tools can better recognize them. And these things are listed in much more perceivable ways to the AI tools. And there's an entire philosophy that is now beginning to grow in that direction as well. So that is a very important ethical concern, Anthony. And thanks for bringing that up for everyone in the audience today.
I have a question.
Yeah, Roger.
The future. If you have sites and you can use a tablet or a computer, then it's easy to navigate around those screens and go to the places you want to view things and read them. When that site diminishes and you are struggling with that, or you lose your site altogether, then you have to use a screen reader such as JAWS, NVDA, or when will I would like to be in a position in the future where I can just talk to my computer on my tablet and say, I'd like to go to the BBC iPlayer app. Tell me what's on TV at the moment on BBC One, what's coming up at 9 o'clock. Please play that thing. I'd like to go to a banking app and say, log into my bank app, go to my account, tell me what the balance is, tell me what my last 2 transactions were. Please pay this bill for me. When will AI have the opportunity to give us that interaction verbally to communicate with our devices without having to learn multiple combinations of keystrokes that are a barrier, I think, to using screen readers?
Very interesting question, Robert. Thank you so much, Roger, for that question. And the response to that, it is happening now, to be honest. There was a tool called Rabbit R1 that came, I think, last year, which only had a scroll and a button. And the only way to interact with that was through our speech. So you had to talk to the device in order to do anything, like take engage with the apps that you just mentioned, open up the maps, take a photo, only through very limited physical interfaces. So one didn't have to learn the entire swipe gestures and other things that we have to on a smartphone. It's something that is out there. It is a bit ahead of its time because not a lot of people find that an interesting use case. Majority of the population in the mainstream market are still comfortable with touch screens. But this is an example that is already out there. And I think yesterday or the day before, Sam Altman, the founder of ChatGPT, told that they would be collaborating with Johnny Ive, who was the creator of the designer of the iPhone, to produce hardware AI. So these two stalwarts in the industry, so that they would be collaborating to launch the next generation of hardware that is purely powered by AI tools. That means that things like you just mentioned, you just speak to it and it understands the application are going to be much more accurate. It will be much more intuitive. You might be able to clip something on your as a wearable or use it as a watch or something on those lines. Is what the potential future is actually going to be, where things are just so intuitive and almost invisible. There was another startup called Humane AI that attempted the same some years ago, but because of a lack of uptake of the device in the initial years, it had folded. And Sam Altman, again, wasn't invested in that company. So, Roger, that's the future we are heading to. Thanks for sharing that question. And there are certain examples that are out there that are beginning to attempt it. And like all new innovations that are out there, the first few examples are potential failures, but it sets out the sort of things that we don't need to do and things that can be done correctly for all of us who are trying to do implement it again. But yeah, if you have any idea on developing that, we would be very excited to put it forward as a conceptual design that we could work on together. See if that could benefit not just people with sight loss, but everyone else in the world as well.
I think Tim, if I could pull a few strands together in the last 5 minutes.
Sure.
Thanks. That was really good, Tiggy. Got some good debate there. Now, obviously, some of the things I hear a lot on the forums that I'm part of. Parish sort of mentioned quite early on about design and price points. That's the meta glasses. And I like the bit about what Maryam mentioned about the King's Cross having timely information. And we've got to put that with, what Anthony and Roger are saying. Roger wants something that's easy to use, quite rightly. And Anthony's just a bit concerned that sometimes you might have 99% accuracy, but that 1% is the one that can potentially cause the damage. Okay, fine. But what is very popular, we did a straw poll on another forum once to say, to ask the partially sighted blind people, what was the best product you think over the years? And it wasn't a clear winner, but the big winner really was the iPhone. Okay. Now, the point I'm making is that standalone technologies are not particularly that popular within the sight loss community. They want something that looks good, is easy to use, and is mainstream. And that's why Meta is very popular. I was in Sight Village, Scotland yesterday, and one store was going berserk because everybody was asking where's the Meta glasses, because nobody had them because they're sold in shops. They're not VAT-able, but they're mainstream. So that's sort of a popular idea, something that looks good, is real time, is not dangerous. That's the dream. But it does seem that mixing it with you mentioned the Sam Altman thing just now in Apple. That is a very popular direction, not necessarily Apple, but mainstream. So anyway, that's a few strands for the last few minutes. I don't know if you can put any more onto that.
Can I add one more?
Yes.
One of the other things that, we got the technology now in our mobile smartphones, but it's trying to take that camera that can use with all applications. So, we are not, like how we can use our headphones, Bluetooth headphones, what have you. It's trying to have a camera because, the Meta AI is good, but they only work with certain applications. It goes through its application and there's quite a few restrictions. Like, for example, you can't use it with Seeing AI. but you want something that gives you access to that camera. So that's another piece of hardware. I've been talking to people like Be My Eyes years ago, and they said to get that it's not as easy as how we would have Bluetooth headphones. So some hardware that will give that the camera free from take the camera away from the smartphone, and gives you more opportunity to have hands-free opportunity. Earlier on, again, just going back to mobility and location. At the moment, I struggle with like living in London. So the bus, I can track the buses, but it's actually trying to get on that particular bus, because buses, they all come at the same time. And so I'll be waiting for a number 52. I know it's going to be in 1 minute. And when the 52 arrives, other buses are also there. So somehow, like how you can track your Uber and you can start communicating with the Uber driver, how is that some kind of technology that is possible, that the driver of the number 52 knows that there's a disabled person waiting at the stop, so he just doesn't pass away, or he waits there until that particular person gets on. So those kind of things can make a huge difference. At the moment, the way I do it is I use bus times, locate my bus, and then I turn on Be My Eyes, but there I'm using a few things together to achieve one task. So again, trying to see if there's technology that can, make all that difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Parish. Any response to that one, Tiggy, Cathy, or Maryam?
I can say something maybe. One thing is that we had a student group this year actually tried to tackle that exact problem. But I have to say that I've been working previously, before I was a computer scientist. I worked for transport. I did some work for Transport for London. So I helped to design the platform humps and the Elizabeth line, and did the business case for level access for high speed rail 2. And this bus problem was a problem then, 10 years ago, and it's a problem now, right? And I do think that the computer vision will catch up. The issue will be, the issue is either often that you put sensors in the bus so you can track the buses. That's one option. There's various reasons why people don't want various bits of infrastructure tracked in case it gets hacked and things, but you can track it. Or you put the infrastructure into the bus stops. And both are costly at the moment. But I do think that the phone and the vision will come together soon. So one of our student projects, we had one which was just looking at identifying train times, like being able to see the screens at train stations. That's one of the student projects literally just used AI to do a better job of seeing dot matrix displays, and that worked really well. And they're going to spin that out, and I expect those and others will begin to tackle this problem. So I think it will get solved, but it does seem to be a sticky problem. It doesn't seem to go away easily. And oftentimes I think when things don't go away easily, it's
just breaking up a bit now,
to solve a problem with an engineering solution, maybe you'd be able to do it. So don't put more money behind that particular problem. It's more of an economics question than an engineering question. I'll shut up now.
Well, thank you. Right, that's people. We've got about 2 minutes left. I mean, anybody got anything whatsoever on what they've heard, or even stuff they haven't heard today that they want to sort of present to the panel? Because it's what we find often with the academic community is they're absolutely keen to get your ideas, and that's how things develop. No matter how left field your idea may be, but believe me, there's somebody out there who'll take it on. So if you've got any ideas or anything that really worries you, we've had some of that today, which is really good. Now's a really good time.
It's David from Outlook again. The software that's running the innersearch.com website that allows visually impaired people to actually purchase things from different shops, that has got inbuilt AI, so it can do this, can read you the image descriptions and things like that. They are now developing the software so that you can interact with it by voice as well. So that's a use of the software that's tackling some of the issues that we need to do to be able to get at reading web pages, etc.
Panel, can I just say, where do you see things going? I mean, sort of, we may have the dream in this community of, a wearable and a phone will sort everything one day. Is that how you're seeing things, or have you got things in mind that we don't even know about, or other people talking about all kinds of things? So where do you think this is heading in the next 5 years?
Cathy, I think you should take this one.
Do you think I should go? No, I don't think I should at all. Actually, I think you two know better than I do. I'm got to that annoying senior position where I don't do anything interesting anymore apart from budgets. I think that. What do I think? I think that increasingly a lot of this will be embedded into mainstream tech. I think that brings massive advantages to the disabled community, but also a lot of challenges, because increasingly, just as a society, our data will be held by corporations, nation states, and that's a different thing. It's a different thing, and they will have increasing power with increasing information, and how that gets shared and used is very interesting from a geopolitical point of view. But from a everyday point of view, I think things will get embedded in. I think there's always a risk that when technology goes at such a pace, people can get left behind, especially when technologies are very expensive. And so people who maybe need it the most will have the least access. And that's not just globally, that's in the UK as well. We're seeing that, or people maybe who don't have digital skills. However, within 5 years, I think you will need fewer digital skills. I think you will be able to speak to things, you'll be able to interact with things, you'll be able to do things. So I think for the visually impaired or blind and partially sighted people community, I think there will be rapid advances. Will it be all singing, all dancing with no errors? No. Will there be some catastrophes? Yes. Will there be other areas of technology like automated cars and things which bring new challenges? Yes. Do we need things that are not technologies? Yes. You were mentioning, Tim, at the beginning, guide dogs. I love my dog more than possibly my wife sometimes, but I love my dog. He's not a guide dog, but he's the best dog in the whole world. And I think that dog brings me much more than any technology could. Genuinely, that does a lot more than a technology. So I think technology will always be a part of the solution, but technology should be there to serve humanity and human endeavour, not just for its own sake. Does that answer your question, Tim? Should I ask Tiki and Maryam to give something slightly more concrete?
No, I think the fewer skills was really interesting, because Roger made his point about the screen readers. They're really hard to use, and if you can just use that just with your voice, or I know we didn't get into this today, but facial gestures, we mentioned, but we didn't go into great detail. Facial gestures for people who may not have a voice, say you've had a stroke, for example, and your speech is impaired. But no, I mean, fewer skills is great, because some of the stuff is so hard to use. and if there's easy ways of using it, that will bring more people in. But Alexa, for example, using Alexa, 5-6 years ago, before when Alexa was became available, this allowed the 85 pluses into the market. People who'd never touched a computer in their life could actually use Alexa. And that's that fewer skills argument you mentioned. So, okay, folks. So that was, we've gone over. We always go over. That was really, really, thank you, Cathy, for bringing yourself and your team to us. We really appreciate it. Really, we really do. We've never had such a high panel as this before. We've had very.
You know where we are now. So if you're ever in London and you want to pop in, you're very welcome.
Yeah, and if you've got my email, Cathy.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do want volunteers, whether they're we're in Cumbria, it's hard to get to London, but there's people on this on this call who are from London and nearby, who would probably be very interested in taking part in all kinds of things. So, and I'm happy to feed that back into other networks.
Yeah. Just want to also mention that I have shared a link in the chat. If you would like to participate in any of our research, there's a very brief form that you can fill out, or you can email us. Obviously, we do research at our lab in London, but we also do online research. So our students, for example, they're always looking for participants who can join interviews and workshops and things online. So even if you're not in London, you can still participate and share ideas and learn, I guess. And we would love to learn from you as well. So please do fill out that form or get in touch via email. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you very much for that.
About Future Vision. Future Vision is a series of technology events aimed at people living with sight loss. Future Vision is a collaborative project between 6 local independent sight societies: Sight Advice South Lakes, Cumbria; My Sight Notts, Nottingham; Sight Airedale, Airedale area, North and West Yorkshire; Support for Sight, Mid and West Essex; Sutton Vision, London Borough of Sutton; Outlookus, Huddersfield, West Yorkshire; Future Vision and Live Well. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Future Vision events take place on the 4th Thursday of each month at 10 a.m. Live Well sessions concentrate on making the most of life with sight loss. These sessions take place on the 2nd Thursday of each month at 10 a.m. To attend the next session, or to suggest future topics, please contact your local sight society, who will be able to provide you with a Zoom link.